This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's Staycation Destinations on Family Life. Today, we take you to a region that describes itself as the region that changed the world. It's in northwest Pennsylvania, eastern Crawford County, and Venango County.
Hello, my name is Emily Weaver, and I am the Executive Director of Friends of Drake Well, which is the nonprofit that supports Drake Well Museum and Park in partnership with the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission.
Anybody who has bought motor oil knows that some of the big brands, Pennzoil and Quaker State, that it really was the petroleum industry was born in Pennsylvania. Tell us about what Colonel Drake was doing.
We had some gentlemen who owned the property where the museum stands now. They had a sawmill. There was oil on site here. They had oil pits dating back to when Native American Indians were here. Oil flowed openly on nearby Oil Creek. So the residents of Titusville and around here already were very much aware that there was oil. The United States as a whole was familiar with petroleum. It was used mainly more for medicinal purposes during this time. Scientists were able to figure out how to refine petroleum into kerosene and use it as a lighting source. That is when this need, this urgency to find oil really starts to begin. And that's where Edwin Drake comes into play. He was a conductor for the Pennsylvania Railroad. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time, knew the right people, and they put Edwin Drake in charge of that venture. They said, we're going to send you out to a little town called Titusville in Pennsylvania. We're going to have you figure out how to get oil out of the ground. We're going to give you so much money to do it, and we're going to give you the title colonel to earn some respect amongst the people of Titusville because they're not going to know who you are, and you need to make sure that you can get what you need. It took a long time. It definitely wasn't an easy process, but on August 27th, 1859, they struck oil at 69.5 feet. They began producing mass quantities of oil and had literally nowhere to store it. They didn't have oil barrels yet. They didn't have oil tanks. They didn't have railroads transporting oil. All of that starts as a result of Drake's Well. So, we like to recognize that Drake's Well was not the first oil well in the world, but it definitely is the well that begins this mad rush to the Pennsylvania oil regions to gain quick wealth, kind of like similar to the gold rush of 1849.
It not only changed the world, it changed America, but it certainly changed that part of northwest Pennsylvania where, think of Jed Clampett, the black gold Texas tea, Titusville, Oil City, just really sprung up very quickly as the petroleum industry grew. Talk with us about the development of that association to maintain the history and make the museum become a reality.
I think from a very early start, people understood the significance of this site and wanted to preserve it. Drake's Well, like the building and everything that would have been there in 1859, are all gone. But it's eventually, in the middle of the 20th century when they construct the actual museum. The American Petroleum Institute had a lot to do with that. All of these early oil companies and organizations, they want it's almost kind of like a marketing thing for them. Like, here's oil, we're going to commemorate it. We need to have a museum here. We need to have something here to commemorate this amazing industry that we're part of, So it's very much, influenced by the different oil companies and big oil folks of that day. So they build the site. It does become a state historical site from the very beginning. So you had a little building here, and you had a caretaker's house, and eventually they expanded that. In the 40s, they built a replica of the original Drake's Well, like what would have been the engine house and the derrick. It's a board-for-board replica of the actual well. And the majority of the replica today is still from the 1940s, although in the 1980s it did have some restoration work done to it. But it sits exactly where the well sat. So they moved that big boulder that the Daughters of the American Revolution put in. They moved it over to another area of our park, and then they built the replica over top of the original well. It's really neat. In the 80s, they installed a replica of the steam engine that Edwin Drake would have purchased in Erie, Pennsylvania, to run the pumping of the well. And we don't have oil actually coming up out of the well. It's been capped a long time ago, but we make it appear that there's oil coming out. We have it recycle through a system underground, so it's kind of neat. It looks like it's pumping, but it's really not. But we have the museum building that we have today was constructed in the 1960s. It had some significant renovations done to it in 2012. 2010 to 2012. It's an amazing site. I interned here in 2007 when I was in college, and they hadn't done the renovations yet. When I came back to work here a year or so ago, I was blown away by how nice the exhibits are. Very modernized, very well done. We receive a lot of compliments from our visitors who come to the site. And we have a lot of outdoor exhibits, antique engines, antique equipment on display across our grounds so that folks understand the types of equipment, different things that were being used here in the Pennsylvania oil regions during that time period.
Executive Director Emily Weaver at the Drake Well Museum and Park just south of Titusville, Pennsylvania. Visit our news podcast page at familylife.org for some bonus content about a parallel attraction called Pit Hole City. Thanks for coming along to the Drake Well at Titusville. It's Staycation Destinations. I'm Greg Gillespie. Buckle up and enjoy your journeys.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.